Hello and welcome to day 24. It is Christmas Eve. I cannot believe we have made it this far. I can't believe I have filmed enough videos in a row. This was very much a spur of the moment thing. I have learned in the future I'm going to do some more planning ahead of time for these videos. So if you have anything that you would like me to add or do more of in the videos, please feel free to let me know. I would love to make them a little bit easier for you guys. I also will not be doing near as many in the future. This was just a kind of push to get started, to just do it. And it's been a lot of fun, but it is a lot to film every day. So today we are going to paint a candle, and I'm going to do a really, really light sketch. Especially I want to make sure I leave space where the flame is going to go, although really we can, if necessary, we can add it back in bleed proof white. But I'm just going to draw a rough sketch of where the flame is, and then I'm going to draw the candle. It's kind of, this is like a new candle, and it's kind of curved there, and then there. Okay. And then it's a nice thick candle. The picture I'm using has several candles. We're just going to focus on one, and then it's got some pine down here all around. Maybe some pine cones too. I don't think I'm going to add the pine cones, but the pine needles can work. It looks kind of cool and gives some interest to it. But we do have to create kind of a dark background. So that the candle flame stands out pretty well. So I'm just going to lighten up a little bit of my candle color. And we're going to get started on the background. I am going to tape this down because this is a lot of wet on wet for the background. It's better to tape it down. I don't want my paper to wrinkle all over the place while I'm trying to paint. Makes it difficult, and then we get more pooling, which we don't want. So I would normally, like I said, I've mentioned before, I usually like to tape it to a board. I don't have one readily available, and I'm trying to squeeze this recording in before my kids get home from school. So I'm just going to tape it here. We're going to make it work. I'm going to use a slightly bigger brush. This is my Polina Bright Round 2. It's actually quite large as far as regular round brushes go. Just use a bigger brush, a 6, a 9, maybe an 8. This is a Princeton 8. It's a little smaller and is older, so it doesn't have a good point. But if you have one that has a good point, you can use that. The only thing we need the point for is when we're getting close to the edges of the candle. But everything else, we just need a nice brush to fill in that space a bit. And I'm actually going to drop in, actually, before I wet my paper, because I want it to be wet, when we do the color, I'm going to go ahead and quickly mix in a background color using some Sepia. And I might use a bit of the blue. I want it to be kind of black, but also not too much. I'm even going to add maybe a little bit of the burnt sienna so it has a bit of that glow in it. A brownish with a glow. That is our background. Now I'm going to rinse off my brush. I want clean water. It's not a big deal if it's a little bit dark because we're going to go dark on top. So if some of that water is still muddy and it's in your brush, that's fine. And I'm going to wet the whole area around the candle. And you can see my water was a bit dirty. Just kind of go slow, especially around where the candle flame is. Again, if we cover it a bit accidentally, we can use some bleed proof white to try to fix it, but we're trying to preserve as much of the paper as possible. If you want to use, what's it called? If you want to use masking fluid, you can. I try not to use it unless absolutely necessary. Okay, grab that dark paint that we mixed earlier, and we're just going to kind of throw it on there. We can add in even some little bits of just like the darker color, some brighter bits closer to the candle. but still dark. We're going to end up having some greens in there. I'm going to throw in some dark because down here it'd be a little bit dark as well. And I'm kind of letting it kind of ease into that area. Dry out a bit. Get some more of that blue. Drop it in. A little more black. Just dropping in those different colors. We want it to be kind of a jumbled mess of assorted colors. It does not need to be perfect. We just want to drop all the color in while it's still wet. Okay. Okay, now we are going to have to let this sit. Like, we can't do anything more with the painting while it's wet. We could maybe do some of the pine branches if you want, as long as you don't mind them blending into the background, which actually wouldn't be too big of a deal. So actually, I know I said we were going to let it dry, but while it's drying, we can do a little bit of the pine branches. And if we want it to be more detailed after the fact, we can do another layer on top with more detailed branches. So if these kind of branch out, it's not a big deal. So I'm just going to do some pine. Although I will say I probably should have done the candle color before I did a lot of this. So maybe it wasn't the best idea. That's okay. We'll just do some of the ones that are like poking out from behind and have them kind of fade. But I'm not going to do too many details into the actual candle. We'll do more of that after we've gotten the base candle color down. So just add a few little bits of green for the pine branches to let it dissipate or bleed out into that color. But there we go. Okay, so I'm going to pause my camera while this dries. Go ahead and pause yours as well and take a break. Do something else while you're waiting. We really can't do the next steps without waiting for this to dry, because if we start painting our candle, it'll bleed out into the background and it'll create harsh lines as those colors blend out. So pause it and we'll come right back and do this in a minute. Okay, I am back. I sped up mine a little bit fast. I used my heated craft tool. I mentioned it before, but this is what I use when I want to heat up my craft or my paintings a little bit faster. Just turn it on, run it over the painting a little bit. Don't leave it in one spot. I usually move stuff around because the stuff can get hot from the air, but it's not something I do regularly, but it is handy to have sometimes. Like today when I'm trying to finish this video before my children get home. So I'm going to get some of this right now. Our background is done. We could do another layer or two if you want it to get really, really dark. I actually don't mind that it's kind of light. I think the candlelight would light it up a little bit so it wouldn't be completely pitch black. And I like the granulation and just the different colors that we got in here. So I'm going to leave mine. If you want to do another background layer, you can do the same thing we did before. Wet the paper, even with the paint already on there. You just wet it all, drop in your colors again, just like you did before, and then let it dry completely before you move on to this candle step. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and start with the candle. And so I'm mixing a little bit of this raw umber and my sepia to get kind of a brownish color. The candle is like a white or a yellow. But over here, the shadow of it is more of a brown, brownish gold color. And so we're just going to put that on there. And then I might even use this titanium for a nice creamy light white color. And do that on this other side here. Okay. And we're gonna fill in this top bit here as well, under the flame. You could make it look a little more yellow if you wanted. If you want a darker shadow, you can do that real quick now too before it dries, so it blends out a bit. And then if you got a little dark, you can lift out some of the color. I'm gonna lift out some here. So it should be nice and light right around where the wick is. All right, and again, we're gonna let this dry a bit before we move on to the flame. I might even add, sorry, just a touch of orange with the burnt sienna, like right in here. So it looks like it's golden and like lit inside. Because it's a light colored candle, you can kind of see where it's lit. So just a little something to add there. Okay, and if you want, I will go ahead and show you the craft tool a bit, just so you can get this, kind of see it. It's not super loud, although it might be louder than my talking. Okay, and now my paper is warm. After doing that, let me put all my pieces back in there. If you want to make your candle a little more yellow looking, you could do another layer over top of this. The original did look quite a bit more yellow. But I am just gonna go ahead and continue on with this because I want to get it done in time. So I'm going to use a tiny bit of the burnt sienna, and I'm just going to do a really thin layer on the outsides of my flame. It's just the very edge, and I'm going to go a little taller than what I have on here. I will have to kind of add that back in with some bleed proof white in a bit. And if you want, you can add like a little bit where you could see kind of the wick or something kind of in the middle here, but overall it's white inside there. But there's our thing. Yeah. And so now I would just go, if you want to give your pine that we added earlier some more detail, you can. Little bits of the pine needles coming up and out. Oops, that got thick, but that's okay. Some of our pine branches could be thick. Have them sticking up in different directions and overlapping. But you want them to go out as well and overlap those ones we did earlier that blended into the background. Okay. And you want them to kind of face out here, but not straight out, and you want to foreshorten them a bit so they're not as long because we're looking at them more head on. So we only see parts of them. And if you make them the same length, they would just make it look really, really flat. but having them be shorter gives it a more three-dimensional feel. Okay. Okay, that's almost done. I'm going to add in the bleed-proof white. At the top, use a brand new brush or a clean water thing. I'm going to add the white up here at the top, maybe overlapping a bit. If it's too white, you could add a little bit of a yellow to kind of give it a little bit of a glow. But overall, pretty happy with it, and candle flames can be quite bright. And so it's okay if it's pretty white. I would add just a tiny touch of yellow maybe near the edges, but not for the whole flame. Okay, and you can add more details around there, but my daughter is just pulling up, so I'm going to call that one good today. And I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to try to film later tonight for a quick little Christmas tutorial, but I hope you enjoy time with your family and your friends and have a very Merry Christmas. And I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.